Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipson. Welcome to episode 174 of Sports Management Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you in collaboration with SIGA, Sport Integrity Global Alliance. Today marks the start of Sport Integrity Week 2024, so head over to SIGA's website, siga-sport.com, to learn more. Today's guest is Roberto Armelin, the Executive Director of ESG Risk and Compliance at Sao Paulo Football Club. Roberto is also the co-chair of SIGA Members Club, the Brazil chapter, and co-chair of SIGA Latin America Good Governance in Sport Committee. We spoke about the importance of integrity in sport, working pro bono for the club he loves, changing career after the age of 50, why he became a lawyer, the importance of SIGA, and much more. Roberto Armelin, welcome to Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you, Marcus. It's a pleasure to be here with you and share a little bit of my journey in sports integrity.
Yes, it will be a great episode. So you are the Executive Director of ESG Risk and Compliance at Sao Paulo Football Club. You're also co-chair at the SIGA's Member Club, the Brazil chapter, and SIGA Latin America Good Governance in Sport Committee. You have your own law firm that you're a founding member, and you have been a professor for several years and a lot of experience from the sports integrity field. So a lot of experience here. So just to start, what are you doing right now?
Well, I'm doing a lot. Lately, I used to say that my business has a lot of letters. As ESG, Risk and Compliance Officer in Sao Paulo, I have 5 letters, ESGRC, but I also work with AI, and I am often working with our human resources guys. Then I used to say I am with 9 letters, but I really love to be able to work with people. That's maybe the bottom line of what I do as a professional and as a person, because I believe that you cannot really split in a working position who you are or what are your purposes as a person. I used to be a lawyer, litigation lawyer, but I wasn't happy as a litigation lawyer because after I changed my career to work with compliance and integrity, I realized that I was working with something that doesn't build anything. Actually, a litigation lawyer works with fights and litigation. That's not building, constructing, and making anything really good. At the end of the suit or the process, somebody's going to be really unhappy with everything. And I used to say to my former partners as litigation lawyers that 100% of my work nowadays is making some good to a number of people. I can either, if everything goes really well, make some good to all my employees. And regarding São Paulo FC, I am talking about 1,200 employees. If I talk about our fans, São Paulo FC has 22 million fans. Therefore, if my work works just a little bit, I am sure I am making some good to a good number of people. So that's why I wake up and work really hard every day. And I come back to my home and I am always happy with everything I could done. Never come back home satisfied, knowing I did everything I wanted to do. But that's really okay. That's normal. This happens with every person who works with compliance and integrity in every field, any field, not only in sports. And I like to underline this because some people here in Brazil often think that soccer here, football or sports, are worse than other fields of economy. And that's not true. We have our issues, we have our problems, but Other fields have problems, maybe some of them better, not so worst, some of them a little bit worse, and that's life. But I really enjoy being able to work with people. The letters you can see behind me, the PIT, it's the integrity program for São Paulo. It's Programa Integridade Tricolor. Tricolor means three colors. It's the nickname, one of our nicknames. São Paulo has a few nicknames, and Tricolor because we have our three colors. And it's been really overwhelming, mainly when I can see how people, how our employees are happy to work in an environment way much better today than we had 3 years ago. And maybe in a few words, not so few, that's an answer for your question.
Yes, for sure. And I like that you're doing something now that you're passionate about. You want to make change for the better. So in your role at Sao Paulo as the ESG Risk and Compliance Director, what is some change that you want to make for the better and that you're working against or towards?
Well, I work in an environment that in Brazil used to be very amateur. I mean, not professional, not only in governance, but mainly with the culture of working. Then we can make lots of changes by putting on work basic managing tools. And this really changes for everybody the daily basis work. It makes really easier for everybody to work. And since we started in a situation really with a really low level of professionalism, which was the standard situation for soccer clubs in Brazil, we were able to make really good and fast improvements in 3 years. And this really makes these results tangible, and we can notice every day. And we get from our employees, of course, the main information that it is working. And I gotta say that really simple tools like an whistleblowing channel that really works really makes some difference in a situation or in a project in which you want to change the culture of management in a company or a club. In Brazil, we have a characteristic for soccer or football clubs. Most of them were non-profitable organizations, maybe all of them. Nowadays, of course, we have few companies that are okay to get some profit, but in the beginning, no. And that's also one of the reasons why the managerial culture was so antique, we can say.
So when we talk about good governance, I mentioned before that you're the co-chair of the Good Governance in Sport Committee for SIGA as well. You mentioned like financial sustainability, but also a whistleblowing channel. What are some other aspects that is important in order to reach good governance in sports?
One of the challenges we have is communication. It looks a little bit strange, but it is really hard to achieve in an ideal way, let's say, the communications with our employees. I used to say we suffer from a disease I call archipelago syndrome. Do you get it? Many isles, like Indonesia. We are a really big organization, and most of areas used to work inside of their rooms, let's say. They didn't communicate with each other often. Actually, it is really rare that these areas, before our work begins, used to communicate between them. Therefore, we had a very little level of collaboration within our aisles, let's say. Then one of the projects we started from the beginning was to improve our communications, and that's still really hard. We had a really low level of training or formation to train our employees regarding our policies, our rules, or internal controls, and so on. And this is one of the big challenges we have. And to fight against that, we had to create an internal tool for communication. And this tool, which we call a portal, has become very strategic managerial tool, and it is helping to speed this culture transformation. Mainly in the last maybe 4 weeks, when we started to put some AI in this tool to speed up this process the most we can.
Do you feel that these are challenges that is in all, in the sports industry at large that you have found also at Sao Paulo FC?
Sure. São Paulo used to be one of the most advanced clubs here in Brazil regarding good governance. Not really the regular standards of good governance, but in the sports environment, we used to be one of the clubs that had the best governance amongst the others. But we have nowadays some other clubs that really have some very good governance structure, which allows them to achieve good results, not only in financial goals, but also in sports goals as well.
If with regards to SIGA, we mentioned before that you're on co-chair on 2 committees. So what is some work that you're doing for SIGA?
Well, with SIGA, we have a very interesting and important partnership because, first of all, we were able to organize together our Sport Integrity Forum last year. It was one of our projects when I met Emmanuel, and since he told me about SIGA's Sport Integrity Forum, we put together both projects, and we had last year the Sport Integrity Forum and also the Integrity Match, which is an idea that I had a few years ago. And then, since we have really many connections regarding what we think that integrity in sports should, how deep or how important should be integrity in sports, we've been working together to here in Brazil, where I live and I work, to improve the knowledge regarding the importance of working with integrity, with compliance, with governance, not only in football environment, but in all other sports as well. And SIGA structure or SIGA network allows us to achieve many other sports organizations also here in Brazil. And the other reason is that when an organization as SIGA backs many of the things or thoughts and things and actions I used to sponsor or teach or anything like that, when an organization like SIGA backs everything, I gain a little bit of empowerment, maybe it's a better word, to convince all the stakeholders with which I used to work day by day. And as usually happens, not everybody is willing to change the way they work and work in a more compliance and in integrity way. Therefore, it is also important that it's been helping me to have this partnership with SIGA for 1 year and a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. That of course that the more people who stand behind this, it's easier to get through the ideas. And you said also with the network that SIGA has a network with the other clubs and organizations. So are you taking a lot of learnings from other clubs and stakeholders that you have got to know through the SIGA network?
Yes, I was in Portugal last year during the Sport Integrity Week with Emmanuel, and I had the opportunity to meet some of SIGA committees members and some organizations, and it really helps to have new ideas and to understand new approaches regarding also always regarding integrity in sports. And it really helped to increase our integrity program and make it as strong as it is right now. I had the opportunity also to go to Argentina and make a partnership with a football club there, the River Plate. They have a really good work in compliance there. And here in Brazil, we have a couple of other clubs with which we founded what we call the integrity movement for football in Brazil. And this also helps us. Again, the net, the power of a net of person with the same purpose, with the same result I got from SIGA net. I am creating here in a SIGA way, let's say, really smaller, but in a SIGA way.
So on November 11th is the start of this year's Sport Integrity Week from SIGA. So will you be attending this event, and how will you be attending this event?
Sure. I am a hosting partner here in Brazil, and again, Sao Paulo FC is hosting partner, and the Sport Integrity Forum will take place in our stadium, the Morumbi Stadium. We have a really huge agenda with lots of panels and lots of subjects to be shared with our public. Really important subjects to be shared. And in the 12th, we are having the integrity match. So we have a really, really important and big agenda. And the 13th, I'm heading to Argentina to be at the Argentinian summit, in which SIGA is holding a panel as well.
Interesting. So you mentioned that there are a lot of topics and a lot of things to discuss that you're hosting. Something that you can tease about or share what's on the agenda, except for the match.
We have almost everything because we are starting 9 o'clock and finishing 19 o'clock. We will begin, of course, with good governance, and we are having sustainability, we are having risk control, we are having AI, the betting and match fixing problem, which here in Brazil, it's a big problem nowadays. We'll talk about racism and gender equality. This movement for integrity in football here in Brazil we'll have a panel to try to attract other clubs to be part of this club of integrity officers. And what else? We will talk about youth and how we must take care of these young people, also because most of them are not going to become football players. Here in Brazil, less than 10% is going to become football athletes. Then we have to know what to do with the other 90% and turn them to good citizens. And that's really strong responsibility for every stakeholders in the field.
Yeah, and these are all very big topics, and I could probably be a weak contributor to each of these topics. So a lot of very important subject matters.
Yes, maybe we are covering. Maybe no. I believe we are covering everything that is in the highest position of topics regarding sport integrity.
So if the listeners want to, this will go live on the 11th, which is the first day of the SIGA Sport Integrity Week. They can go on SIGA's website, or where can they find more information about the event?
In SIGA website, I'm sure there is more information, and there is a hot site for this Sport Integrity Forum, which is in Portuguese. It's really easy to understand everything that's going to happen there, and also the integrity match. It's in the same website.
I'm curious about your career journey up until we have talked about a lot about what you're doing now and a couple of years in sports, but you studied law, you worked, as you said, as a lawyer. So how did you get into sports in the first place? Why did you decide to study law, and how did your career move on from that point?
Well, that question has even longer answer, but let's try to be fast. My father was a lawyer. He was a great lawyer, and I admired his work. And since a kid, I wanted to be a lawyer, more or less like him. He was a great litigation lawyer. He was also, after some years, he became a justice. And it was a really beautiful career. And I started my career doing the same. But after a few decades, I wasn't really happy with the litigation, with the fights. And I started to work more with prevention and corporate law, and trying to help my clients not to be in a litigation situation. Then I realized I was working against litigation, and that seemed to me a better work, not only for me, but mostly for my clients. Then I, of course, started to work with compliance in the same prevention and corporate field. And I started to work for Sao Paulo FC 2005 as a sports court lawyer. It was almost for fun. Of course, I used to work to do my best for my clients, but it was really fun because I was working for my club, the club I've been a fan since I've been born. And then I met many people in this club. I began to work even more in many other fields besides sports court. Then I became a legal director, and we had a big crisis to deal. We had a president that resigned, and I stayed in the crisis committee to organize everything after that. And that was a moment after which I was pretty sure that we had to start working with compliance and other good governance tools. But at that moment, it wasn't possible for some political situations. And I left. I stayed in my firm, working as a lawyer again, only a lawyer without sports clients. And I thought that my career with sports in 2018 was over. But December 2020, the president that actually nowadays is running the club was elected, and he was a friend. And he used to work with big companies here in Brazil. And I used to tell him that he should be president for Sao Paulo, because he would bring to our organization that professional management culture that I always thought we should have. And he called me December and invited me to be his legal director. I said that I would be happy to be if I could work also with compliance. And after he said yes, I also said yes. And it all started January 2021, when the PIT, the Programa Integridade Tricolor, was born. And it is today one of the most known parts of our club, let's say, because everybody in Sao Paulo FC knows that there is the pit and what it is for and how it can help anyone in any situation nowadays. And this is, in my opinion, a good sign that the culture changed in a good way. And then, just to conclude, then I do not consider myself a litigation lawyer. I consider myself a compliance professional since 2021.
That's fantastic. And, great to see that it's been able to do so much. And was it always, you have worked in football now since 2005 with the Sao Paulo, so for 20 years almost. Do you have a previous interest for football, for soccer, since in Brazil it's a very popular sport?
I used to be a Sao Paulo fan since always. We have here in Brazil social clubs. I don't know how do you say it in English. Those clubs in which you have the pool, the courts, in which people used to have some fun. This happens a lot here in Sao Paulo. I used to be one of these associates. I was in the club after playing some tennis. My kids were in the park, and there was a sign inviting whoever might be interested to be part of a sport management formation course, maybe. And since then, it was 2004. In 2005, I was studying São Paulo FC as it used to work. And I started to work for São Paulo in a pro bono basis. I worked pro bono from 2005 to 2021. I started to be paid for my work in 2021. Everything I did before was pro bono and for love for my club. And my father used to tell me that I shouldn't do that, that I should work for money also. But I didn't listen to him. And I stayed with São Paulo pro bono from 2005 till 2018. And I didn't work for any other club, any other sport organization throughout all my career, only for São Paulo.
Wow, that's amazing, and it shows the love of this club that you have.
Yes, yes. And this is not really normal here in Brazil. We have many professionals that are fans from one club and work for many clubs as professionals, and that's fine. And they work really well for many clubs, and that's not a problem. But me, myself, and a couple of other 2 or 3 lawyers, we've been working only for the club we love, and that's a little bit strange, but it's also nice.
Yeah, it is. So approaching the end here, is there something I haven't asked you yet that you want to mention?
I think that something interesting that happened to me that might maybe encourage someone else is that I consider that I changed my career after being 50. I am older than 50. And I think that's not easy in any field, in any country. I think this may be really hard to be able to achieve. And I had maybe the luck to find the perfect situation to be able to really change my career from a career that was structured. I was really well known. I had my clients, I had everything, and I took the risk. But many, many positive situations happened that helped me to achieve that. I had a president in which I trusted and I trust, like Julio, our president. I trusted that he would keep me even in the hard moments, and he did it. And he gave me the basic conditions to perform our good work. And I think that's not easy. And I like to share when I can to encourage people with my age or something close to that, that it is possible. It is not easy for sure, but maybe the good conditions can appear, and it's always going to be risky. Of course, everything in life is risky, but it is possible, and I'm happy to share that happened to me, and I'm happy that it turned well for me as well. But I think that's nice to share with everyone.
Definitely. And it shows that it's never too late to change something as well. That maybe many people would have said that I'm 50 now, I don't want to change, I will just continue what I'm doing. But you saw that you had a passion somewhere else and that was important, and changed anyway. So I like that. And as you said, I'm glad you shared that with the audience as well.
Yeah, and I think that maybe I was bold enough to try it because as a professor, I used to be a professor in a university here in Sao Paulo for 30 years. And I had lots of students that were older than me, many of them with white hair. And I used to ask them, why are you studying law at this point of your life? And most of them used to tell me that they always wanted to study law, but they had to do anything else because life took them, or they had to pay the bills, they had family, and that was not possible at the moment. But when the moment came, they did it. Then I had this in myself, that these stories from a few students I had. Then when my opportunity came, I think I was lucky enough to see it, to take it, and to turn it into a successful career.
Yes, definitely. And it's an inspiring story. And as I said, glad you shared it with the audience. Roberto, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on Sports Management Podcast.
No, I thank you. It was really a pleasure. And congratulations for your questions, because I don't remember a situation in which I opened so many moments or parts of me as I could share with you. Then congratulations for your conducting as a maestro. And thank you again for your invitation and to be able to share with you and the SIGA community my career.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for the nice words. And don't forget about Sport Integrity Week now that the same starts the same day as this episode goes live. Thank you for listening to the Sports Management Podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought about this episode. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @sportsmpodcast.